You're listening in on an animated discussion about Batman the Animated Series with two experts in their fields. I'm Joshua Unruh, superhero scholar.
And I'm Caleb Masters, your friendly neighborhood film critic extraordinaire from the Cinematropolis.com. And today's topic is Season 1, Episode 65, and allegedly, possibly, feels kind of weird, the season finale of Season 1, The Worrymen. Joshua, I've been worried about this conversation since we picked this episode and decided to roll forward with it. I have been a worried man about the worried men.
There is a great deal of worrisome things going on in the Worrymen. So it is good that you would be worried. Have you put a tiny, creepy little doll under your pillow to try and take the worry away?
I am not going to appropriate other cultures because I don't know how those things work. In fact, we had to Google
it.
Whether or not Worrymen dolls or worry dolls were even real, and they are. As it turns out.
So I feel like we're going to set the theme for our conversation with what I have to say about the title card. I think this title card is pretty great.
Yeah. I like the music.
I like the music. The imagery is suggestive of what will be going on in the episode without being too literal. Because if they'd used a Worryman doll, we wouldn't know what that was.
Exactly.
So instead they used this, scary South American art face, and it's peering out through the bushes. Okay, it's
pretty cool.
Through the underbrush. It's definitely filled with menace. I get the feeling that we are going to see something from South America fill us with dread and menace.
I was waiting for Kraven the Hunter to show up. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, that would have been, or for Batman purposes, that would have been Catman.
Actually. Ooh, Catman.
Would have been really interesting. So I think that this title card is very, very good, except for the exoticism and racist undertones.
Whoa, wait, Joshua, are you saying that in the year 1995, when this episode was produced, they might have said and done some insensitive things and incorporated problematic choices into the story? In the mid-90s, the peak of wokeness, right?
So yeah, that's what I'm saying. And I want to bring up Worrymen. I suggested that we talk about Worrymen partly because it is apparently the finale of the first order of episodes.
Yeah, it's very strange.
Clearly, they weren't thinking about finales in the way that we think about them. It's really just the last episode they produced of the batch.
Yeah,
but it is the end of that first batch.
End of the first batch. And I will say this definitely harkens back to a time when it was just very episodic. Yes. There are very, very loose plot threads that tie these characters and stories together.
Right, it's part of our favorite thing about this series is that these bits of continuity bubble up here and there. But they didn't care.
No. But that did. I want to say that their idea of the finale was getting the Mask of the Phantasm in the theater. I know that was supposed to be like the original first season finale.
If that was the end, that's a good end.
Right.
But then they get more orders. But then they get an order for more episodes. And we'll talk about those also. But yeah, it's the last of the batch, but not really what we would traditionally consider a finale. But you're right. Mask of the Phantasm did start out as a script for the regular show or for a two-parter or whatever, and that would have been an amazing ending.
Oh yeah,
if that had been the ending.
But I'm glad we got the movie instead because it had bigger budget and cooler.
Bigger budget, effects. Lots more going on, and I'm also glad that it wasn't the finale because we get a bunch more Batman.
Oh, exactly, lots more Batman.
So I wanted to talk about it for that. It's got kind of a weird place in the run of the show, but I also wanted to talk about it because I think it's very, very good. This is a really tightly put together episode.
I was very surprised by things that happened in this episode.
Yeah, there's a couple of twists and turns that are legitimately unexpected.
I was genuinely like, I don't know where this is going. Like, who's the man behind the curtain? Because you knew at some point there had to be a man or woman behind
There's
the
a
covenant.
plot.
Yes.
There's something going on.
But we don't know what it is.
Is it this person climbing the rooftops at the beginning? Who is it? What's going on? I mean, so there's like a legitimate mystery going on. There's a lot of cool stuff happening in this tight narrative package. But a lot of it is also super problematic. At least a little bit racist and definitely exoticist. And the reason I say that is not for us all to feel bad about enjoying this episode.
I think you can enjoy the episode, but also realize that exoticism is not, it's kind of racist.
Yeah, don't do it.
Racist, yeah.
Right?
Don't.
And to be honest, it's something that they should have known better than doing in 1995.
Correct.
But they did it anyway. They should have known better. We definitely should know better now. So I guess I'm including Worrymen as a larger statement on Batman, the animated series as a whole, which is all your favorites are problematic, and that's okay. They can still be your favorites.
Just call them what they are. They're
Recognize the problems. Yeah, that's it. And there's a lot of them in this. Mayan witch doctor?
Mayan witch doctor. That
is a phrase we said?
That makes no freaking sense. And also a shaman later.
And also sometimes he's a shaman, and sometimes he's just a guy that makes dolls. We pretty clearly did not care about the non-American person of color or any of the details of his backstory making any kind of sense whatsoever.
Well, he was just a piece of exposition to help us figure out the mystery, Joshua.
He is.
So he served as a part of the plot, not really as a developed
He's
character.
not a character.
Even though his culture is the one we're stealing to tell the story.
Right.
Yeah.
Which we did have to look it up because we are straight white dudes in 2018, and we did not know that worry men were actual things. They are Mexican and Guatemalan dolls that people do tell their troubles to, and then or put them under their pillow or whatever. And then there are other cultural things we're not going to talk about because we're not experts.
Nope.
But that this is an actual cultural heritage piece that they borrowed for this episode, didn't do much with, and then sent it away with the sometimes witch doctor, sometimes craftsman, sometimes shaman back to a non-disclosed Central or South American location.
We're not really sure. It's not American. That's all that matters. It's not American, North American.
Now, here's the part of this that is most tragic to me. When we are first introduced to that character, he is like, and I hate to say this, but I don't have a better way to say it. He's like Jungle Batman.
Yes.
He's got
Correct.
kind of a batarang type thing.
Yep.
He's got gadgets and the blowgun, and he's got a cape, and it's not a mask, but it's face paint. Like he's got an ornamental aspect, and he is out running around rooftops and holding his own with Batman.
Well, it's a very strange visual.
Yes.
Because I actually found that the whole like jungle tropical exoticism is a weird meshing with the noir style of Batman, because the black, like those greens and reds and stuff on the black,
it really stood out.
It stood out like a sore thumb.
And they really still mute them quite a bit, but it's still, these are not the colors we usually see on BTAS, and we don't usually see people show up and be this competent against Batman in ways that are very much out of his playbook.
Correct.
Yeah. So that was pretty cool.
That was cool.
If I thought these guys were up to the challenge, I would have loved to have seen like a spin-off starring
show.
that guy in Rio de Janeiro or something, doing Batman stuff in Rio.
Give him a comic series. Come on.
Would have been
give
amazing.
him a one shot even. Come on.
Oh, one of the few missed opportunities in Batman Incorporated would have been this guy showing up in Rio de Janeiro. Oh man.
There's still at least 3 more Fast and the Furious movies he can cameo in. Don't worry.
That's not even the weirdest thing that would happen in those movies. So that's legit.
Yeah. So firstly, I just want to, first and foremost, I also want to point out that the crime at hand here, Josh, hear me out.
Oh no.
A lot of very rich people get robbed.
Yes.
At a fundraiser. Well, actually, they get robbed because they attended a fundraiser.
Because they attended a fundraiser.
So really, the crime that Batman is solving, and it only does it because he is personally one of these people who are robbed. Really.
Now, to be fair,
and his friends,
he started looking into it before that because he saw somebody skulking around the rooftop of a place he was. That's the legitimate part of him Batmaning around it.
Listen, I am not going to justify crime in any way, because crime is crime. It's illegal. You don't steal money from people. But also, there are people who get robbed who don't have much money.
Yeah.
I feel pretty bad for them because they're in trouble if they get robbed. But I don't really care about the really rich people who were saying kind of racist stuff at the fundraiser.
They're
losing their money.
Dressed like great white hunters.
Yeah.
Bugs as big as my trust fund. Ronnie.
Oh my God. Yeah. Okay. I rolled my eyes so hard at those bugs
sympathetic.
were as big as my trunks. And I know that's intentional.
Yeah.
But I really didn't care. I was like, okay. And also,
is it intentional? Because 99% of the rich people in there are very unsympathetic. The only ones that we hear from, like speaking parts from, are Ronnie, who's terrible.
Yes.
Bruce Wayne, who we give a pass to largely because he's Batman.
He's Bruce Wayne.
And their friend, whose name I forget, but he is the stockbroker who apparently has a lot of worries.
Sure.
Is having trouble maintaining being a super rich guy.
Right.
And he is let out in handcuffs, which, by the way, the only person of color that's from America in this episode is the only one we see actually arrested for the loss of the money.
Okay.
Not a good look. Also not a good look. But he's, I think, supposed to be sympathetic to us.
I mean, listen.
It seems inconsistent.
Listen, okay, sure. I didn't like Ronnie. I
she's
really
the
didn't.
worst.
Oh, I'm never going to, you know what? Bugs as big as my trust fund. Get out of town. I hope they steal some of your trust fund. I mean, okay, sorry.
The accommodations were non-existent.
Okay, listen.
Yeah,
as I
she
said,
needs a monocle.
Crime is crime. Stealing money is illegal. Batman fights crime. But when there's like ultra rich people who are flaunting their wealth around and they lose some money that, by the way, they're probably insured for anyway, I'm like, Batman, you get other priorities here,
it's
right?
It's tough for us to care. I mean, I agree with you. I think it is particularly difficult for Caleb and Josh to care, but I think it's a wider problem. What's the motivation here?
Right. Well, because it just comes around to the idea that I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, like, at the end of the day, I know they're going to be okay because they're probably insured for that money.
Right. Except for the guy who gets let out in handcuffs, apparently.
Well, he was I guess he got framed for embezzling money, right?
Yes.
Okay. Right. Well, white collar crime. That's not okay.
So guess what? He's not actually a rich person. Not really.
Right.
He works with other people's money.
He does. He's rich.
That's why he was there in a tuxedo, not in a Great White Hunter
outfit. There we go.
He's not a rich guy.
Well,
so now I care even less about the rich people.
Yeah, well, because the person who was moving their money got thrown under the bus. Either way, I feel like the episode goes out of its way to show, and this just could be Caleb and Joshua not liking the showiness and rich people.
Yeah, the opulent wealth.
Well, yes. But I felt like they were written to be very unsympathetic.
Yeah.
So therefore, I was like, okay, Batman. I mean, what if the Joker was out blowing up buildings? Right. But no, you gotta go.
Maybe go find a real crime.
Yeah, you gotta go find.
So, would you be surprised to know that this is a problem they have dealt with in the comic books?
Okay. Do tell.
Now, this is not in any one specific story. This is kind of in broader movements of the character. But if we go back to the very beginning of the character, Batman fills a very liminal space where he is simultaneously from the school of the pulp detective, like Philip Marlowe, or more like The Shadow.
Okay.
But he's also trying to fill the brand spanking new, never existed before Action Comics #1 superhero space. Okay? And one thing that they wanted to do to differentiate him from other heroes was make him a detective. So now he needs mysteries to solve. Thefts are very good mysteries.
Very good mysteries.
This was the Depression. Nobody had any money except for super rich people. And also, how would Batman discover that the super rich people had been stolen from?
Except for he's Bruce Wayne, so he's friends with the very
friends
rich
with
people.
The super rich people.
Okay. All right.
So very early on, Bill Finger, the architect of everything we love about Batman, right, from the beginning, not Bob Kane, the guy who actually made
Josh
Batman.
hates Bob Kane, by the way.
Well, that's because Bob Kane is not a good guy. And
but Bill Finger
is, I mean, I'm just, in case this is your first episode, I'm emphasizing Bob Kane is not responsible for all the things you like about Batman. Bill Finger is.
Sure,
Okay.
I agree with that statement.
And Bill Finger was doing the writing, and he's the one who had to solve this problem. And it started out, well, he just solved it by Bruce Wayne fixing the problems of his rich friends. But this became something of a perception problem to the readers of the book, because you had rich guy in outfit solving rich people's problems, and the poor people who spent a dime on the comic book weren't in love with it.
Yeah. Oh, wait, we can't even get dinner on the table, and oh no, Rich Joe
We're supposed
over
to worry
there.
about this jewel heist.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I think it's very telling that BTAS does not go to this well terribly often. It either targets Bruce Wayne specifically or Wayne Industries specifically, or, as you and I have enjoyed many times, the rich person is the bad guy.
Yes, correct.
Yeah. It doesn't do this very often because, they basically cracked this nut in 1940.
And you want to know what? I actually expected there to be a rich guy, bad guy. But you know what? It wasn't. I was actually very happy with the twist at the end, which is Mad Hatter showed up.
That's right.
And I was absolutely not expecting that in any way.
It was a big surprise.
It was a huge turn.
I kind of started to think that way the first time. I'm rewatching it. It's been a while since when I pulled the DVDs out or whatever, I wasn't watching the Worrymen over and over, right?
Right.
So I'm rewatching this, and I think I did start to expect Mad Hatter at the point that they said mind control microcircuitry.
Okay, well, yes. Yeah.
But here's the beauty of that.
Sure. I mean, I think we get there. I mean, yes, I realize it's Mad Hatter before we actually see him, but it's pretty close. It's
close.
over halfway through the episode.
And what are we discovering about the Mad Hatter as a villain? We prefer him when he's barely in the episodes that he's the villain
Correct.
for.
He's a weird guy, guys.
I don't like him. I like his gimmick a lot.
I think we talked about this on another Mad Hatter episode.
Yes.
I think he works really well in a modern context where he's an incel.
Right. Yes.
But in the more traditional sense that the BTAS...
The gimmick is mind control.
Yeah.
Like, that's what we're really dealing with is mind control.
Right.
Good. Then I don't need to see your creepy weirdness until the very end when it must be revealed.
Which, by the way, I'm just going to throw out there, too. He's super freaking creepy.
He really is.
He was going to decapitate Batman, and right beforehand was citing Lewis Carroll. And
well, the man commits to his gimmick. I'm just saying.
I know, but that was... Okay, listen, I just feel like that was an effective use of the gimmick. I was like,
it is.
God,
it really
is eerie.
The Snicker Snack, the Vorpal sword with the guillotine. Also, I love that guillotine.
The guillotine,
okay.
yeah.
I love that entire set piece. The mannequins and costumes making versions of Batman's rogues to try and murder him on autopilot. Very cool.
Yes.
The guillotine, very cool. The way Batman stops the guillotine was amazing.
Oh, yeah.
He kicks it, stops it with his feet.
Because he's Batman.
So yes.
But also that's possible. That's plausible. But also because he's Batman.
Yes, it's not likely, but it is. It's the kind of thing where you're like, oh, a superb physical specimen whose hands cannot get there. How else is he going to do it? Whoop, just does the thing. So good. It's a really...
ladies and gentlemen, nice reminder. Do ab day. Never skip ab day. Very
don't
important.
Skip legs. Don't skip core.
But
you're right.
Great.
It's peak Batman, but it really is like an inspired moment from the writers, I think. Like there could have been I picked the lock or rolled out of the way, but they were like, let's give this man a moment to shine.
Because he is very physically competent. We don't always get to see that. You know, I mean, other than when he's punching people. So it's not often that we get to see him be a little more spry or flexible or do something unexpected like that. So that was cool. And I think, here's the thing. And this is just me going to be honest. I mean, the Mad Hatter's a criminal. So obviously I don't really sympathize with him. Because he's a criminal who controls people's minds. And
he's not a good guy.
He's not a good guy. But he also is a person who has zero money, stealing from people who have tons of money. So while I don't sympathize with him in any way, because he's a bad person who uses the money for really, really awful, terrible things, there's something inherent. That's why I'm going back to the idea of the crime at hand. Is inherently, I'm like, I mean, there are worse things out there.
Let me damn him for you completely.
Okay.
Notice that in order for him to enact this plan, he has to act like a big white colonizer to the craftsman / shaman who made the Worryman in the first place. So I agree with you. There is a certain level of sympathy that I want to give him because he is a penniless person stealing from very rich people. But let's never forget the power of white privilege. He kind of already did it to this other guy.
Totally. No. That's why I want to reiterate. I do not sympathize
This
with him.
episode is not doing that.
Yeah.
But it could have if it wanted to.
Right.
The pieces are really there.
Yes, they could have played that up like he had no other choice or whatever. You know,
there's a lot of interesting things that could have been done with this episode that just weren't going to be done in 1995 because we were too busy treating South America as just weird and exotic.
Yep.
So,
well said. So, Joshua, obviously we both liked the episode. It's problematic. Do you recommend it? Do you think people really should take time to watch The Worryman?
I do. I don't think that it elevates itself to must watch, but I do think it's worth watching very specifically because it is otherwise so well put together. And I think it's a useful tool to help people realize that all their favorites are problematic. I don't want to say it's more like homework because it's a pretty fun episode.
Yeah, super fun.
But you can have a good time and also kind of educate yourself a little bit with how not to do fiction things with this episode. What about yourself?
It's like right in the middle. I don't think this is like an essential watch by any means. I do think it's really fun. I did find it's nice that on a show I feel like I can predict everything, even if I haven't seen it, but just because we know how the tropes usually work.
Sure, yeah.
It was really nice to be like totally shocked that it was Mad Hatter. I was just completely caught me off guard. So that was pretty cool. And I think it was a well-written episode, other than, of course, the problematic materials.
Which that's why I kind of say with a little bit of homework, right? Like you can for real enjoy this episode and appreciate the craftsman-like quality of it, while at the same time going, maybe we shouldn't treat every indigenous people this way. Us as consumers, them as creators, and the Mad Hatter in the fiction should not be treating.
Well, no, but here's the thing. In the fiction, of course, the Mad Hatter should not be treating him this way, but he's the Mad Hatter. So that's kind of it's okay.
That's a good point.
You know, if the villain is doing terrible things, the way the story works, it's bad, but we as the audience know it's bad.
You're
so
right.
it's okay that he's the villain doing the thing.
You're right. You're 100% right. If anybody in this episode was going to be doing that, it should be Ronnie, who we hate, and Mad Hatter, because we hate.
Yes.
And that one of them is put in this episode specifically for us to dislike, and the other one has a larger purpose in the universe of being the villain. So no, from that perspective, I agree with you.
But unfortunately,
he's the right person to be doing that.
Unfortunately, on top of him doing that in the episode, the writers did that to indigenous people themselves.
Yep.
So
yeah. See, that's why I say it's kind of fun to watch if you're with someone to unpack these things, because the idea that our very villainous person is doing a very villainous colonizer type thing, and that the creatives also did a very similar thing.
Yeah, right. I think it goes back to something we've talked about over and over on the show, which is just at the time, the subconscious. It's like when we talk about how Batman talks about women and Robin talk about women.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe a woman would do that. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, whoa, that's kind of sexist, you know? And I think that's the writers subconsciously trying to work those ideas in, but not knowing how to articulate it very well. And I think this is, while not 100% the same, it's similar. Subconsciously, they're doing the thing that they're accusing.
That they are also saying shouldn't be done. Yeah. So watch yourselves. Like, any of you who are listening to this that are yourselves creators or makers of fiction, I mean, it's a trap to fall into. It's a trap that I have been careful to not fall into and have not always been successful. So see, I think that's why I would say it's not an essential watch as a BTAS episode, but I think there's lots of great lessons to be learned from the Worrymen.
A lot of good value. So Joshua, as always, we're going to go ahead and close out the conversation with some alternate media recommendations. And I'm going to go ahead and kick us off with on the subject of mind control. I'm going to select The Manchurian Candidate. Now, the original film, I think, is a masterclass, but I actually like the remake, too. The original being more of a riff on mind control in the Vietnam War era. And then the more recent one, I think it was like 2002, 2003, has Denzel Washington in it. It looking in the war in Iraq, and what it's looking at. I mean, it deals into a lot of government conspiracy things, but ultimately, at the end of the day, I think it's the way we present war and the way we look and understand troops, and also how mind control and brainwashing sometimes doesn't have to be as obvious. For it to still be brainwashing.
Definitely, yes.
Secondly, just another one I'll throw out there. Go ahead and throw out A Clockwork Orange.
Also, classic reconditioning type story. Yes.
Yeah. I think it fits. There's a lot of weird mind control shenanigans in this episode. So, Joshua, how about you? What you got?
I am going to own my own hypocrisy, or perhaps I'm going to make myself an object lesson.
Do tell.
My alternate media recommendation based on this episode is Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom.
Hey, Joshua, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but that's the definition of problematic cinema. And
exactly.
It is one of the most problematic, popular films I think I've ever seen.
It really, really is. It is also excellent at what it's planning to do.
Correct.
It's my personal favorite Indiana Jones film.
Correct. It is your favorite. Incorrect. That is the best. But continue. I don't want to interrupt. Sorry.
Yeah, that's a whole other podcast where I am always right. But the point being, I love it. And there's a lot of narrative things to learn from that film. There's a lot of filmmaking things to learn. The cinematography is amazing. The race through the tunnels.
The car is incredible, yeah.
Considering it's all like early green screen and mostly practical or
edge.
models.
Yes.
I mean, there is a lot of amazing stuff going on in this movie. It is also incredibly exoticist and super duper racist. And I still watch it and I still love it, but I recognize the problematic parts.
I think that's a great point. It's okay, everyone. Everything is problematic.
All your favorites
in some
are
way.
problematic.
All your favorites are problematic. Just think about it for long enough, you'll get there.
Well, that about wraps up this animated discussion. Caleb, where can people go to continue the conversation with you?
Well, Joshua, you can always find me on Twitter talking about film, television, video games, and all sorts of other pop culture goodness at C Masters Talk. That's letter C Masters Talk. I'm also the editor-in-chief and film critic at the Cinematropolis, and we publish these in-depth essays on all types of different films, oftentimes including science fiction and superhero films, all the stuff you'd want to read about. And you can find all these articles at thecinematropolis.com. Joshua, what about you?
I'm also most active on Twitter, where you can find me easily enough at Joshua Unruh. And remember that an animated discussion is a Pulp Diction Productions program and is 100% supported by listeners like you. To find out how you can keep this and our other shows in production, check out patreon.com/pulpdictionproductions.
So everyone, tune in as we move into Season 2, Episode 2, A Bullet for Bullock.
Until next time, we'll see you back here. Same bat time, same bat channel.